So, here we are. Ducati 1199 Panigale. Highly modified engine. Dyno on two dynos at 183 to 184 horsepower and 92 to 94 foot-pounds of torque. 395 pounds. Let me put something over the tag real quick so nobody can see that. You're not supposed to know who I am. Here we are. Now, we are here today to talk about the silly rear brake system on this bike and why it gets bled and bled and bled, but still has air in it. All I'm here to tell you, if you're bleeding and bleeding and bleeding and you still have air in the lines, you're not bleeding, you're draining. You're pouring fluid in one end, it's draining out the other, and it's not getting the air out of it. Let me get the camera set up and I will go through the brake system for you really quickly and show you where the problems are with this, and then we'll go through the how do you get the air out of the lines procedure so that you don't have this problem in the future. Alright, the first thing to remember about this system is this master cylinder right here is the same master cylinder that's been on every Ducati Panigale style bike since 2012. The 899, 959, 1199, 1299, and V4 and V2, the new one, all use this exact same master cylinder. Likewise, rear caliper, except for some neat little logos they put on here for the V4s, is the exact same caliper. It has the same bore, the same mounting sizes, the same bleed point, the same size banjo bolt for the line. The ABS module on this one, the top of it is about here. That's where the top of the lines are, about that high up on the bike. Air always wants to go to the highest point. You have three high points on the system. The first is the two lines for the rear brakes, one in, one out from the ABS module. Second is right here at the banjo bolt for your master cylinder. Because the bolt is a 10 millimeter bolt, the bore is 11 millimeters, and the hole is 6 millimeters. Which means this bolt has a little bit of a lip right here, a little hollow spot inside the master cylinder, where an air bubble could lodge, and if not aggressively braked, like really jamming it down, would never come out of there, would never clear, and still be there forever. Lastly, the rear, if you look at this, this is your bleeder valve. This is the top of the cylinder for your bores, for your pistons. It is lower than this, which means in this rear caliper you can get an air bubble in the top of both bores right here, and it will never bleed out. No matter how much fluid you pull out of there, it'll stay right there because the fluid comes in at the bottom and goes out over here. So it'll just flow straight across. It'll never get this bubble out right here. The only way to get rid of this is to pull this caliper off, pick it up to about this high, so it's higher than your ABS module, and then bleed it upwards and then down into a bowl or something, instead of trying to bleed down, down, down all the time. Because the bubble will sit there and float. It'll float in the lines, it'll float in this line, it'll float up here, it'll float in the top of the two lines over here in the ABS unit. Right here, it'll float inside these two lines going backwards because it can't be pulled out. Those are very small lines, but it will still float right there. So the only solution when you're going to bleed one of these out is take the rear caliper off, pull this loose, pull these two loose, make it vertical so that any bubble here will have to go through, pull the banjo bolt off completely, fill the master cylinder with fluid without the banjo bolt in place, screw it back on very carefully, tighten it, then remount it because the fluid is now right here, and the first time you press it, it's going to press through. You have to have a one-way valve at the caliper to make sure the fluid does not come back down into this master cylinder. Once you get the fluid flowing this direction, it'll go into the ABS unit, back out of the ABS unit, down the line, and then up to where we're going to have the caliper right here. So I will show you how this is done without pulling this loose, because mine's perfectly good and I have a perfectly good pedal right now. But I'll show you how you bleed the rear caliper and how much fluid you actually have to put through the system to make sure there's no microphones. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is going to pull out my little tool caddy here. Cheap but effective. And we're going to get one of these. This is a, let me read it, make sure, 6mm Allen. Okay. Swivel. When you get on these bolts, make sure you're on the bolt, because if you don't, you can strip the head and then you have a problem. Break the first one loose. Leave it in there. Grab your handy dandy electric drill with a bit on it. Pull the first one out. Those are 8mm by 20. They torque to 19 foot-pounds or 25 Newton-meters. Second one, you go through the chain over this bolt, and you grease all over yourself while you're at it. Alright, this should be out. It is. Good. Now, carefully reach under here, grab the caliper, and ease it around. Yes, I banged the wheel. The first thing you do when you get this out, take a screwdriver, stick between the pads, right in the center, and twist it. That back bleeds all the way to the master cylinder and keeps it from collapsing if you start pressing on things. Now, usually I would put something in here like a piece of wood, keep from doing that. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put the screwdriver in there as I go around to the other side, and then I'll just press the pedal down on it to hold the screwdriver in place, and that will keep the pads from moving. There. Now it's stuck in place. It's not going anywhere. This is where it has to sit, up here, in order to bleed out this bleeder valve. So I walk over to my C650 GT, my scooter, and I get a strap, like so. Put it through one of the eyes, preferably one that goes up, not down. Cross top the seat. Find a convenient place to hook onto, like my carbon fiber heat shield for the exhaust. This is, make sure you don't kink this. Kinking that line is a bad thing. Now, this bleeder valve is 11mm or 7/16 for you American people out there. All you're going to do is crack it. You're not going to open it real far. Half turn max. You'll see why in a minute. Okay. Now make sure it's tight again so it doesn't drain any fluid. If I have that open, it will try to bleed all the fluid back in through the entire system back to the reservoir, and I don't want that. So the next step is, get a bunch of big towels like this. Protect everything underneath it, because you're going to drain some fluid here. Now, take the Mark 1 thumb, put it on the bleeder valve, crack it just a little bit, open up your reservoir, watch the reservoir level, make sure it does not get down too far, otherwise you'll pull air into the system. I have done that in the past. And you push. And what you're doing is you're making a one-way valve with your thumb, and you're pushing the fluid through the system with the master cylinder. You get about 5 pumps, and then it's done. The reservoir is empty. So you go get your handy-dandy bottle of brake fluid, which I bought a brand new one of today. Make a small hole in one end, pour out a little air hole at the other end, here, fill the master cylinder to the brim.